Hey, bonjour tout le monde. Comment allez-vous? Faire un petit test de son. Faire un petit test de son vite. Ça se peut que ça soit fucké pendant 2 secondes parce que j'essaie d'ajuster le volume de ma voix avec le son. Okay, ça a l'air pas pire, hein? Je veux quand même que vous entendiez ce qui va se dire. OK, on va y aller avec ça. Il reste 6 minutes. 6 minutes avant le début. Murder at Karlov Manor. Pas complètement improvisé le fait de décider de faire un live là. J'aime ça quand il tombe sur l'heure du dîner comme ça. Ça me permet de faire ça avec vous sur mon heure de dîner. J'espère que cette année, on va être plus chanceux que l'an dernier. Puis, si ça donne, on va essayer d'en faire un maximum de ces espèces de réactions-là ensemble. On a besoin d'un petit rig, on va probablement parler pas mal. Vous avez vu, j'ai mis ma chromatique lantern. Fait que là, vous allez peut-être voir quelques vidéos, ce qui n'est pas là encore, qui ont été préenregistrées, qui vont sortir peut-être un ou deux qui j'avais préenregistrés sans la lanterne, mais à partir de maintenant, ils vont toujours être là. Fait on sait jusqu'à date que c'est Taissa Karlov. Et il s'est fait tuer. Ça c'est clair. On le sait. Maintenant, qui l'a tué? C'est ça. L'enquête, c'est de trouver qui l'a tué. Puis on devrait, en théorie, le savoir, je crois, aujourd'hui. Massacre Girl semble être trop facile. Hein? C'est ce qui est sorti au début quand on a appris qu'on en jasait. Puis qu'on a vu Massacre Girl sur les artworks. Ça a été peut-être, comme je dis, trop facile de dire bon, ben, c'est facile, c'est Massacre Girl qui a tué Taissa Karlov aussi, on l'avait prédit. Ça aussi, c'était évident, remarque. Ça aussi, c'était évident. Donc, ils vont nous montrer quelques cartes aujourd'hui qu'on va avoir dans le set. J'ai hâte de voir. On a fait certaines prédictions. On a fait une petite vidéo avec les teasers de Mark Rosewater. Fait que j'ai hâte de voir si on va spotter quelques cartes de ce genre-là. Phlann, je vais valider, mais Phlann me semble, il a prédit Withers. Hein? Withers serait de retour. On va aller voir ça tout de suite. Mais ouais, il me semble que Phlann a dit Withers sur une créature. Puis, j'avais commenté par-dessus. Je vais chercher ça. Ici. Fait que, ouais. Phlann avait dit Withers. Fait que, j'ai dit un Viachino assassin, parce qu'il y avait ça comme type. Un Viachino assassin qui a Withers. Puis que quand une créature qu'un opponent contrôle meurt avec un toughness moins de 1, tu piges une carte. C'était comme 3 indices. En fait, Viachino assassin, c'était un des indices. Quand une créature qu'un opponent contrôle meurt, si elle avait un toughness moins de 1, tu piges une carte, c'était un autre indice. Et ils ont dit une habilité qui était sortie la dernière fois, genre en 2008. Et c'est ça. Phlann, je pense que tu as eu du flair pas mal. Fait que prédiction, Viachino assassin avec Withers qui fait piger. Fait piger. Voyons, avec quand une créature meurt avec un toughness moins de 1. On a ce sac à un clou pour faire des poisons que j'ai hâte de voir aussi. Ça va être quoi? Qu'est-ce qui détruit? Qu'est-ce qui va faire que quand tu sacs un clou, tu fais des poisons? Et est-ce qu'on va voir de nouvelles façons de sacrifier des clous? Hey Phlann, salut! Justement, je suis en train de parler de toi. Est-ce qu'on va voir aussi d'autres utilités aux clous, comme on a vu un petit peu dans Lord of the Rings, où ils ont sorti d'autres habilités au food. Est-ce que les clous vont être d'autres choses que ce qu'ils font présentement, ou grâce ou via d'autres cartes, bien sûr. C'est le premier set avec lequel on va avoir des play boosters. Donc, plus de draft, plus de set boosters. Maintenant, ce sont des play boosters. Oui, le prix des boîtes a augmenté légèrement. Parce que c'est maintenant, on passe de 30 à 36. Les boîtes de 7 boosters, c'est des boîtes de 30. On revient à des boîtes de 36, mais avec des boosters qui ressemblent beaucoup plus aux 7 boosters qu'aux draft boosters. J'imagine là qu'ils ont justifié la hausse de prix des boosters. Je suis pas contre l'abolition des draft boosters. Je dois avouer que j'en achetais de moins en pratiquement plus, sauf quand j'avais pas le choix parce qu'il n'y avait que des drafts. Je trouve que les 7 boosters, c'est effectivement très plaisant à ouvrir. Juste le feeling d'avoir la fois que tu pognes un booster avec 3 rares au mythique ou 4 rares au mythique, c'est trippant. Fait que bien content de voir les play boosters. Même si, effectivement, comme tout le monde, un petit peu déçu que le prix augmente. 7, 16, 15, 14, j'ai hâte de voir. Est-ce que vous entendez bien le son? Si je monte un petit peu, est-ce que ça va bien? C'est pas assez fort le son de la présentation.
A recent string of murders has planted the seed of societal collapse here on Ravnica. How did this get so out of hand? And who could be behind it? Well, worry not, because all will soon be made clear. In fact, the mastermind is here with us in this very room. That's right. One of these Ravnikins is responsible for everything. And I, Detective Alquist Proft, will prove it. It's quite simple, really.
Welcome back to the cityscape of Ravnica. You'll need all your wits about you to unravel the mystery that's been building here. Crack puzzles, collect evidence, and identify suspicious individuals in order to discover who is behind the series of grisly murders throughout the plane. The brilliant detective Alquist Proft recently announced that he has discovered the guilty party and invited everyone involved in the investigation to join him for the reveal. But which of them did it? We will go over the events so far and attempt to discover the killer before Detective Proft can unveil the truth. Our story began in the wake of the Phyrexian invasion. When Phyrexia attacked, most of the Ravnican guilds united to repel the assault. With Phyrexia defeated, Ravnica has been eager to get back to normal. And what better way to demonstrate that the people's spirits remain unbroken than a big shindig at Karlov Manor? The host of the event was Kesa Karlov, guild leader, legendary aristocrat, and scion of the powerful Karlov family. During the Phyrexian invasion, she saved many lives by supplying key intelligence about the advancing armies, and so who could begrudge her for throwing a well-deserved party? Everyone who is anyone was there, and everyone else was trying to get in. One featured guest was an old Orzhov friend of Teza's, heroine Planeswalker Kaya.
Okay, yep.
Since the Phyrexian defeat, Kaya has found herself back in her old stomping grounds. Reluctantly attending the party, she assessed the scene, looking for any reason to make her escape. In addition to celebrating a return to normalcy, the Karlov Manor party served to cement a new status quo by hosting members of the Ravnican Agency of Magicological Investigations. The agency are a fresh force in Ravnican society, established to make sure that guild politics don't affect the investigation of actual crimes, or at least that they affect them less. One of the members of the agency is rookie investigator Kellen. He is eager to follow the clues wherever they may lead him. The night proceeded as planned, the party's opulence drowning the recent woes of Ravnica in splendor and excess. But the festivities were interrupted when a body was found sprawled in the cloakroom on a pile of coats. It was the leader of the Simic Guild, Zagana. The party was immediately awash in suspicion. As luck would have it, Alquist Proft, Ravnica's self-styled great detective, was on the scene as well, ready to investigate any clues that might have been left behind. Investigate is a returning mechanic that immerses you in the feeling of being a detective and will have you digging deeper into the goings-on. It enables you to create a clue token, which is a colorless artifact token that you can sacrifice in order to draw a card. Proft quickly realized two things. One, the seemingly random coats underneath the Ghana display the insignias of each of the guilds, not a clue so much as an anti-clue or a pile of red herrings. But he also noticed that someone was wearing Selesnian colors without the appropriate sigil. A disguise. The new disguise mechanic imbues the game with a sense of mystery. Anything could be hiding under your opponent's upturned cards. Disguise allows you to cast cards face down, hidden so no other player knows what it is. Pay 3 to cast this spell, and it becomes a 2/2 creature with Ward 2 and no other abilities. You may turn it face up anytime you have priority by paying its disguise cost. This happens immediately, doesn't use the stack, and can't be responded to. That 2/2 creature your opponent thought was safe to block is actually an angel. Perfect to fly over for some free lifelink. But before Croft could pull the mysterious guest aside, her true identity was revealed.
Trotta is obviously guilty of the murder, and yet has no memory of killing Zagana. Clearly, the roots of this case go much deeper than I initially suspected.
Kaya was ready to leave the plane she once called home, but was summoned back to the scene of the crime at Karlov Manor. Teysa claimed to have something important to tell her, but by the time Kaya arrived, Teysa's body was already cold. Another murder. Kaya discovered a note written in Teysa's hand, but the script was Phyrexian. Was Teysa working for them? And could there be another murderer on the loose? With these unanswered questions spurring her on and a dead friend to put to rest, Kaya took on the case. Cases are a new mechanic that allow you to experience the different steps as a mystery unfolds, just as a detective would. Cases are quest-like enchantments with 3 abilities. The top ability is always active. The middle is a condition to solve the case, and the bottom a reward once you've solved it. Back at the agency, Kaya and Kellen bumped into Agris Koss, who was one of Boros' best investigators when he was alive. Things hadn't changed much now that he's dead. Reluctantly assisting in the agency's investigation, he was prepared to catch any person suspected of foul play. Suspect is another new mechanic which allows you to cast your well-honed detective eye at any creatures that looks like they might be up to no good. Suspected is a label that can be applied to a creature. A suspected creature has menace and can't block. Once suspected, a creature remains suspected until it leaves the battlefield or another effect causes it to no longer be suspected. Kaya and Kellen, beginning their investigation, went to speak to Judith of the Rakdos. Judith was present the night of the Karlov Manor party. Kaya was surprised she was even invited, and more surprised to learn that Judith had a disagreement with Teysa before her murder. Judith insisted that she was innocent, but did inform the detectives that they didn't have the whole story. She pointed them to the original guild pact at Vitu-Ghazi and promised that it would clarify things. Meanwhile, Croft had decided to go about things a little differently.
I have a new and unlikely partner, Trotta. After all, who would be more motivated to clear her name? And it helps to have an assassin on my side as I untangle this thicket of clues and false leads.
Etrata and Alquist headed to the last place she remembered being before waking up at the party, one of her assassin-friendly hiding places. They discovered a fine yellow-gray powder dusting her bedside table and pillowcase, their first major piece of evidence. Collect evidence is another new mechanic. You can solve a mystery in your head, but nothing is as important as hard evidence when bringing the guilty to justice. To collect evidence, exile any number of cards from your graveyard with the total mana value of the indicated number or greater. Some cards even unlock alternative effects when entering the battlefield, if evidence was collected. As Alquist pondered the meaning of the powder, he was attacked by Massacre Girl, an infamous Rakdos assassin. Thanks to Etrata, Massacre Girl was sent packing. But who would have hired her to kill Croft? And
on n'avait juste pas le Viechino, on avait assemblé la créature, Phlann. Massacre Girl, kill
Kaya and
Withers.
Kellen headed out into the wilderness, or as close as Ravnica gets to wilderness, to see the new literal resting place of Vitu-Ghazi as the giant tree recovers from the battle with the Phyrexians. Kaya and Kellen were stopped in front of their destination by Tolsimir and his wolf Voya. Tolsimir seemed standoffish and on edge, almost as though he and his pointy-toothed companion had something to hide. But after a couple of tense moments, he agreed to lead our intrepid investigators inside Vitu-Ghazi. Trostani, the Dryad Guild Master of the Selesnya Conclave, have roots that tangle with the living wood of Vitu-Ghazi, so that the two seem inextricable. Trostani was once 3 dryads, Sim representing harmony, Oba representing life, and Ses representing order. Now all are united with each other and the World Tree. They pointed the investigators towards the guild pact they sought. The investigators learned that the cult of Rakdos was founded and bound to Rakdos in the hope that it would prevent him from his practice of instilling murderous rage into random citizens. That sure sounds like what happened to Etrata. Etrata and Alquist headed to see Kylox the inventor, hoping he might be able to shed some light on the mysterious powder. Alquist had some suspicions about what that substance had to do with murders, and knew that only an advanced scientific mind could help him get to the bottom of it. But when he and Etrata arrived at Kylox's lab, they found it in a state of turmoil. Alquist combed through the ransacked lab for clues and discovered a secret disguised hatch that led underneath the lab. Kylox must have tried to escape. Alquist and Etrata followed the path only to find the missing Kylox working furiously in a secret office. Before they had a chance to discuss the powder, a group of goblins broke in to capture the artificer. Alquist and Etrata were able to quickly hide from being taken themselves, but managed to follow the group to somewhere on Tin Street. They discovered that Krenko, another suspect who felt that he was the one in danger, was behind Kylox's kidnapping. Krenko believed that Kylox's secret research was the key to the recent spate of murders. As if on cue, yet another brainwashed Ravnican made an attempt on Krenko's life. But his aim fell short, and instead of Krenko, Kylox was killed.
We managed to rouse the murderer from his stupor. He was confused and horrified. He claimed to have been at the flower shop. And then suddenly here he was assassinating a scientist he had never even heard of. How curious.
At this point in the investigation, it was clear that victims were piling up at an alarming rate. What had started as a search for Zagana's killer had now spiraled into something much more wide-ranging and insidious. Teysa and Kylox had both been murdered in cold blood, and there were more bodies to come. As Proft and Etrata were contemplating the scope of this case, across town, the agency informed Kaya and Kellen that Teysa's killer had been captured, a low-level hitman with no memory of the attack. And the bad news kept coming. Since she last crossed paths with Proft, Massacre Girl had attempted to murder Aurelia, killing 10 of her soldiers in the process. Massacre Girl, echoing the other killers so far, said she didn't know why she attacked Aurelia. Aurelia would not accept this answer. She gave Kaya and Kellen 24 hours to solve the case, or she'd march the Legion to war against the cult of Rakdos, almost certainly plunging Ravnica back into chaos. They were so close to finding the truth, but now the pressure was on. Elsewhere, Proft and Etrata were in Golgari territory in the Undercity, hunting down Izoni. Proft had noticed her spiders in Etrata's cell, and again in Kylox's underground lab. Clearly, Izoni was keeping tabs on the case. But why? Once found, Izoni denied any wrongdoing, but was able to confirm for them what Kylox could not. Whatever the powder they found is, it is not from Ravnica.
I know who the killer is. Obvious, really, when you think about it. I'll reveal all in front of a group of interested parties, including the culprit. You'll just have to join me at Vitu-Ghazi to learn the truth.
So, given what we know, who has Proft identified as the killer? Who had the motive and the means? Teysa hosted the party during which the first murder occurred. She could have let in the killer, but she ended up a victim herself, and she appears to have had something to hide about the Phyrexian invasion. While she might have been involved somehow, we can rule her out as the main culprit. Etrata was clearly the one who murdered Zagana, but at the same time, she had no memory of the event itself. And she assisted Proft in gathering further clues. Is she the murderer, playing a long and complicated game, or just the murder weapon? Judith had her own quarrel with Teysa, though she claims it was minor. But she also knew about the guild pact with Rakdos. Is it possible she's involved in the murders, or does she have her own cunning plan? Massacre Girl is, as the name implies, a known killer. She not only attempted to knock off
Elle,
Alquist's
mononoire
Croft,
battante.
but also attacked Aurelia. Is she, like Etrata, an unwitting pawn for someone else? Or is something more sinister going on beneath that not-so-innocent smile? Hylox felt threatened for the secret projects he was working on, but didn't reveal what those were while he was alive. Is it possible it had something to do with the powder that Proft found? Either way, his death rules him out as a suspect. Krenko was convinced he was next on the murderer's hit list, and he was attacked by one of the brainwashed assailants. But they ended up killing the very scientist Krenko had just had kidnapped. Is it possible that he was behind the murders and used the attack on himself to dispose of an enemy and waylay suspicion? Massacre Girl's attack on Aurelia gave her the perfect pretext to launch an all-out war. But what if she was the one helping the murders along in order to establish a call for war that no one could question? Still, it seems unlikely that such a righteous figure would be so underhanded as to stoop to murder. Agris was a beacon of justice in his life, but called back into the service by the Boros Legion, he disappeared without telling anyone his intentions. Could he be hiding something? Agris had no motive. He was only aiding in the investigation, a ghost just looking to retire. He was clearly not involved. We can rule him out. Could Trostani be involved? They seem innocent, but their guild has been through much turmoil as a result of the Phyrexian invasion. Could it have unbalanced the Dryads in some way, turning a healthy tree into something twisted and gnarled beyond recognition? And even if they didn't act directly, they are connected to another of our suspects. Several of the mesmerized Ravnican assailants had vestiges of fur on their robes, a possible sign that they were working for Tolsimir and his mount, the Great Wolf Voya. Izoni had eyes on each phase of the investigation. Etrata's cell, Kylox's lab. Was she just keeping tabs like she said, or trying to remain one step ahead of an investigation she knew would lead to her? Or perhaps we should look more closely at the great detective at the center of this web. He has been at almost every crime scene, and this murder spree has burnished his reputation. Is he working both sides of this case?
This case was a tricky one. It seemed easy to solve at first. Of course, Etrata killed Zagana. We practically caught her red-handed. I witnessed Kylox's death, but the attacker surrendered without a fight. Someone had to be pulling the strings all along. So I called everyone here because I knew that the perpetrator was among you, and that they wouldn't be able to resist taking me out before I exposed them. As I had hoped, while speaking with Kaya moments ago, a flower grew from the wall and attempted to dose her with what appears to be mind control pollen, triggering my demise. Thanks to Izoni's help, we knew that this powder was not something we've ever seen here. This was the final piece of evidence I needed. The killer is none other than Oba, the central member of Trostani. Only Trostani has the power to create a new form of life like this. Any plant in the city was able to be used as a delivery system for the pollen. So, that's the method and the means. As for motive, each of the people Trostani killed or tried to kill was involved with the Phyrexian invasion. Teysa was communicating with them, though I'm told she was actually acting as a double agent for the benefit of Ravnica. Krenko profited off the war, and Zagana was experimenting with Phyrexian oil. No one was more damaged by the Phyrexian invasion than Trostani, emissaries of all living things on this plane. And so, no one had a motive for murder like them.
So there we have it. Oba, the central member of Trostani, was behind the plot, and Alquist Proft, with our help, managed to put the pieces together. But the larger mystery has just begun. There are so many more puzzles to solve and secrets to uncover with murders at Karlov Manor. Your eye to detail and detective skills are still needed. In addition to playing the new set, there are 12 puzzles and 1 meta puzzle to solve. You can find your first puzzle in the pre-release kit and then discover more in products like Play Boosters and the bundle. Go to ravnicadetectiveagency.com for more puzzles and the final meta puzzle. And if you feel like attending a party less deadly than the one at Karlov Manor, you can play early at your local game store for pre-release starting the weekend of February 2nd, on Arena February 6th, and available everywhere February 9th. If you want even more tantalizing clues and details about the murders at Karlov Manor, story episodes are currently rolling out. Keep a sharp eye out for any further clues, detectives. Ravnica is still counting on you to solve the remaining puzzles.
Alright, ben les clous, ils surfent sur les sagas modifiés un petit peu. On a vu les sagas, les backgrounds qui étaient sur le même frame. Ça, c'est très cool. J'adore Massacre Girl.
Hello and welcome to the absolute best place
Là,
to
on va en
be
avoir
if you want to
plus.
learn more about murders at Karlov Manor. You just saw an introduction to the set. We learned a little bit about the mechanics.
On va voir les cartes.
Saw some cool cards, some reprints, some new cards, some pretty cool treatments. And we are going to spend the next hour-ish diving
Là qu'on est là.
deep
C'est pour ça qu'on
into
est
the
là.
set. We're going to go into each of those mechanics. We're going to reveal more cards. We're going to talk about the booster fund treatments. We're going to talk more about that puzzle that's built into the set,
very excited.
which is really cool. We're going to reveal every special guest in the set, and we are also going to talk
on va
about
voir les special guests.
Ravnica
Nice.
Cluedo edition later in the show. But first, let's meet, and I say meet loosely because you know these guys. Mike Turian and Mark Rosewater are here to talk about the set. What were your roles, real quick, with the set?
So for Murders at Karlov Manor, I was the product designer, which I've been for a number of sets, The Lord of the Rings, Wilds of Eldraine. So yeah, I was super excited to help bring MKM to
Pendant
life.
qu'il placote, j'ai hâte de voir plus de cartes. Mais
version to
ouais,
life and just all the
Massacre
amazing
Girl, j'ai
products
pas de
and,
deck mono noir
you know,
encore.
Getting to work with amazing designers.
Je trouve vraiment
puzzle
Massacre Girl
designers,
intéressante.
Mark Gottlieb as well.
Félicitations
So,
à Phlann
hear
d'avoir
from
trouvé que
later.
c'était
we'll hear from him
Withers.
later too.
Vraiment
It's just
cool.
it's just been a
This
blast
Guys,
bringing,
qui est probablement le
another
nouveau
amazing Magic
Morph,
set to life.
une nouvelle itération de Morph
So I
qui ont refait
co-led the division design for this set.
des cartes
Mark
face
Gottlieb
down.
and I,
Encore, je vais baisser le son un petit peu
together.
des autres. Là.
And then he co-led the set design with
On
Andrew
parle
Brown.
encore de
And so
cartes
anyway,
face
I was involved
down.
from the set from the very beginning.
Donc,
So I'm excited to
ça
talk
va
about
inclure les
mechanics,
cartes
because
Morph
the
qui est
set has a
très
lot of
cool.
cool mechanics in it. So.
It does. It has some great mechanics. So we are going to dive deep into the mechanics, and you're going to see new cards. So if you're here for preview cards, we got you. We're going to have plenty of them. So we're going to kick off with kind of the biggest marquee mechanic of the set, which is Disguised and Cloaks. We've got some preview cards, but Mark, why don't you talk real quick about what Disguise and Cloak are?
Okay, so when we first said we're doing a murder mystery, we said, well, from a mechanical standpoint, what do we need to do? Well, we need to have a mystery, right? You need to figure something out. That's the key to a murder mystery. So we went and said, well, are there mechanics that already exist where you have to solve something? And we talked a lot about there's hidden information, but like being in your hand didn't quite get the feel you want, because like you have to know you don't know something.
Yeah.
And so Morph was kind of a low-hanging fruit, if you will, that, you know, it's a very popular mechanic introduced during Onslaught, was in Time Spiral, was in Concert here. And so we thought maybe we wanted to bring Morph back, but one of the ongoing conversations is when we made Morph way back during Onslaught, creatures were just a lot weaker than they are now.
Yeah.
That, you know, when Magic first got made, the spells were very strong and the creatures were kind of weak. And over the years, we've made the spells not quite as strong and the creatures a little stronger. So 3 mana for a 2/2, because Morph, you can play a face down 2/2 creature, vanilla creature for 3. A little on the weak side. So what we've said is, okay, during Concept Art here, we did some exploration. We tried what we called Borf, which was Bear Morph, which was a 2/2 for 2,
Sure.
too aggressive. We tried something we called Smorf, which was for 4 mana, you played a 2/2 with a +1/+1 counter. So it's like for 3/3.
Yeah.
That sort of morphed into Mega Morph.
Yeah.
On me dit rien,
It
non?
didn't quite end up with what we wanted, but when we started this time, like, okay, let's do more exploration. So the first thing we tried was 3 mana for a 3/2. The problem there was it was a little too aggressive, and you never tended to flip them up. You never turned them up because they were just too good at killing things.
Yeah.
And so we said, okay, what we really wanted was a mechanic that kept you from killing them, so you could flip them up. That one of the fun parts about Morph is that getting to turn them up.
Yeah.
And so what we found was we put Ward on them. So we ended up putting Ward 2. So Disguise is Morph, but Morph with the added benefit of it's a 2/2 face down creature with Ward 2.
Yeah.
And what we found is Ward 2 did a really good job of making you not kill the face down creatures, so you get the opportunity to turn them face up. Now, for those longtime players, we kept the rule. There's a rule we call the Morph rule, where it's not till 5 mana that you can flip things up. So you know that you won't lose a creature to a Morph creature till they have 5 mana. That
Sure.
it can't. if it's less than 5 mana, it'll trade. So you're aware of that. We kept that rule. And then basically what we did is we called it Disguise. And then what Cloak is we did Manifest back in Concentrator Peter did Morph. We did Manifest. Manifest just means you take a card from the top of your library, put it on the battlefield as a face down 2/2, and then you can turn it up if it's a creature. Cloak basically is like Manifest, although it can come from other zones. It doesn't have to come from the library. But you put it face down, but as a 2/2 with War 2, so that it matches with Disguise. So Disguise is just upgraded Morph, and Cloak is sort of upgraded Manifest.
Cool.
But it just was the perfect fit for a murder mystery set. Like, who's this mystery thing? Aha, it's this person. And so it just,
effectivement.
I mean, we talked about it very early on. It wasn't the very first thing.
Disguise se prête pas mal plus à beaucoup de sets que Morph. Quelque chose qui se transforme, quelque chose qui est déguisé.
A slightly better Morph. And the reason we changed it, the reason it's not just Morph, is Disguise just plays a little bit better.
Yeah. So let's see some examples of Morph, I'm doing it right away. Disguise and Cloak. So we got a few new cards, and these show some of the flavors of what you can do with the mechanic.
Yeah, I mean, one of the things that's always been true about Morph is that one of the fun things is I play a creature, it has some value at 3 mana, no matter what it costs, at 3 mana, hey, I get a 2/2 and 2/2 with War 2. So I have a creature that I can use, but later in the game, often, I can turn into something bigger. Now, maybe the creature naturally is bigger. Maybe the creature has an effect when you turn it face up. You know, there's a lot of different things you can do with it. And this, we're sure showing all the different kinds of stuff. But that's one of the things that's great about this kind of mechanic is it is super interactive. There's a lot of design space. There's a lot of really cool cards we can make. And you get a lot of really fun reveal moments, which exactly plays into the trope space we want, where, haha, it's this. You know?
And that Morph rule that you were referring to earlier, for anyone who doesn't recognize that. So you'll notice that the 2 cards that have Disguise here, that Disguise for 2 mana, so you can turn them up for 2 mana, both have 2 toughness.
Right, they'll trade. What the 5 rule is if I attack into a 2/2 and they morph it and they don't have 5 mana, I know I won't lose they won't save their creature and I lose my creature.
Yeah.
They might bounce, we might trade, but at least I know that if they don't have 5 mana, I'm not just having it swallowed up by their creature.
Yep.
Yeah.
So, and that's an important rule we kept it, even though Morph became Disguise, the rule still kept, the 5 rule still stayed.
And then one of the things I love here about Atrata, right, is like you were talking about Morph, you were talking about Manifest, and she works with all of them.
Right,
right?
It's face down. So
Right, it's face down. Of course, you know, she's a combo with herself.
Yeah.
Right, but then like as you go back and you go and find some of your decks that have those mechanics in them, like she's a perfect addition, as well as of course being an assassin to boost up assassins as well. It's quite fun.
We're doing murder mystery, guys. Fantastic.
Yeah.
Je trouve ça bien qu'ils rework des trucs pour les mettre au goût du jour et les retravailler avec l'expérience comme ils viennent de faire.
Perfectly into our next slide, which is the confusion about if you have Morph and Disguise in the same deck, which will exist, which we'll talk about later. But we have this helper token right here, a mysterious creature. So this is whenever you have a disguised creature, you can use this as an overlay. And the Morph overlays exist from Cons of Tarkir as well. And so those do exist to help keep these things straight. And then, you know, I also saw a comment about questions about the limited archetypes, and there are limited archetypes that care about face down creatures, which is what our next card is. So talk a little bit about this white-green cares about Disguise and Cloak archetype.
I mean, so one of the things that we try to do in any set is we like to give each 2-color combination, you know, a draft archetype. And so we decided that white and green could play into caring about face down things. And so I think this is what we call the gold showcase signpost uncommon.
Yep.
Yeah. And so
Dans chaque set, si vous voulez savoir c'est quoi l'archétype de draft, il y a généralement une onde commune, 2 couleurs, qui va expliquer c'est quoi. Comme dans ce cas-ci, vert et blanc, c'est face down card.
Morph is nice in that you can play big things early.
Et nous avons un archer de plus pour tous ceux qui veulent se faire un deck tribal Archer.
Mechanically.
Yeah, and I believe I know Adam Styborski and myself wrote a collecting article that has a product overview, and I believe in there.
Ben, on n'a pas vu grand chose encore. Il y a des affaires le fun, des designs intéressants, il y en a. On a eu la petite vidéo d'introduction. Puis là on regarde un peu plus des cartes. Là. Mais il y a des affaires le fun. Il y a des affaires. Il explore du design intéressant.
Also, let me answer a question real quickly.
Yeah.
Which I'm sure will come up. So obviously, when you mix morph with disguise, I mean, you have to now track them.
Yep.
One of the things people ask me is like, well, morph worked. Why would you change morph? And the answer is, we don't like the future to be victim to the past, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like we made something, and when we made Onslaught, morph made sense, but Magic has changed, and so just because Magic, we have to adapt with the times, and we have to change with the times, and so like disguise is just us saying, hey, morph made sense, but now it doesn't right now, and that. Look, yeah, maybe if you mix and match them, but we don't want to not adapt things and make things better just because literally 20 years ago we did something.
Yep.
Mais tant qu'il réfère à des face-down cards, ça va être bon pour les deux. Et manifeste. Et cloak.
For a mechanic that it was so obvious we introduced it back at the first look, is investigate.
Yeah, so I said before that morph was the second thing we did.
Yeah.
Literally, the very first day, we write down all the tropes, and one of the questions we ask is, are there mechanics we want to bring back? And investigate is such the slam dunk in murder mystery world. In fact, Magic has done mystery once before.
Mm-hmm.
So in Shadows over Innistrad, we were doing cosmic horror.
Yeah.
And a big part of cosmic horror is it starts with a mystery. And so we put Jace in a trench coat, and so that's what we...
Hey, Disguise aussi. Disguise aussi, ça va demander qu'est-ce qui est quoi. Hein? Ouais, tu t'en souviens de ce que tu as déguisé?
Everybody assumed it'd be in the set. That's why you showed it in the first look. Like, why wouldn't it be? So, but the one thing we can show some cards. We did some fun stuff with it because we're ever evolving. But anyway, it makes perfect sense. The reason we made Investigate in the first place, real quickly, is we wanted to draw cards, but it turned out that drawing cards is really good. And so Investigate came about because we said, how do you draw half a card? That's where it came from. And the idea of, I'll make a token, and the token with mana draws me a card is a way to make cards, but it's not quite a full card.
Yeah.
And anyway, the clues were so popular, it led us down this path where we did treasure and food and blood and all sorts of other things. And so the idea of artifact tokens in volume as a mechanical component, clues really were the thing that led us down that path. So anyway, clues are back. So.
Clues are back. Let's see some cards. So the first cards we're going to show, we showed these at first look, so these are not new cards, but we wanted to show some cards that they investigate when you cast them, when they enter the battlefield. Alquist Prof, obviously one of the stars of this set, can do some stuff. By do some stuff, I mean cast Sphinx's Revelation when sacrificing.
Ouais, faut t'aimer ça. Faut que tu veuilles puis tu te committes à un deck face-down. Effectivement, en draft puis en seal, ça peut être tannant.
So Galvanize, it says if you've drawn 2 or more cards. Clues are a great way to draw 2 or more cards.
Ah, Galvanize, on le voit pas. 3 points de dommage sur target créature. Si tu as pigé 2 cartes ou plus, ce tour-ci, c'est 5 dommages.
A twist on it.
Yeah, one of the things that we learned, so the nature of sort of design technology is we do something and we build on it. When we did investigate, this is the idea of making...
J'adore le... C'est pas une nouvelle, hein? J'adore le Crime Novelist, qui est le Goblin Bard. J'adore le art de cette carte-là. C'est l'enfer. Et quand tu sacrifies l'artefact, tu mets un +1/+1 sur lui et tu adds un rouge.
And have different draft strategies, use them in different ways.
Yeah. Yep. And to the point of different tokens, like these are obviously meant within the set to work with clues, but fans are pointing out that treasures work pretty well with crime novelists as well.
Ouais, mais c'est un treasure avec Crime Novelist.
It seems like a Goblin Bard.
Goblin Bard is a great type line. It's, and are they writing about the crime that happened in Ravnica? Are they writing about something else? I don't know.
Yeah.
Il
There's
est
lots of
tellement
ways.
somme.
Well, maybe
Il
one
est
day.
tellement somme, le gobelin.
That'll be its own set one day.
I suspect that we. Oh, no, I'm not. That's the one.
Ouais, hein, ouais, moi aussi, je l'aime beaucoup, 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 François.
Suspect, which is one of the new mechanics in this set. And we've already shown Argus Cost was in the debut, so we can put that slide up. And then Mark, talk a little bit about what Suspect is and how it plays the set.
So one of the things, there's a larger thing to handle. I'll talk a little bit about design at a whole, and then we'll get into the Suspect specifically. One of the things that we're always on the look for is how to improve the resonance of design, how to make things even more evocative. And so something we've really started doing, this set is where we did it in force, is this idea of, obviously, if we have cool names, we can take expressions and words and put them in names, put them in flavor text. But the thing we asked ourselves is, how do we write rules text that's the most evocative rules text we could write? How do we get the words of the genre that we're playing with? And so Suspect's a really good example. We loved the idea of a suspect in a murder mystery story. It's really important, right? There's a victim, someone usually dies. There's a culprit, but we don't know who that is. And then most everybody is a suspect. Yeah. And so we wanted to bring a way to make you the suspect. And we actually, my article that goes up, I think later today, I give a lot of examples, or sorry, next week's article does this, gives a lot of examples of the different ways we tried with Suspect. In the end, what we realized was we wanted it to be something that had both a positive to it and a negative to it, so that sometimes you'd want to put on your creatures, sometimes you'd make your creatures suspects.
Yep.
But...
Je pense pas que Suspect, ça va... Menace peut pas bloquer. C'est une espèce de counter. Je trouve l'idée intéressante de ce genre de token-là. Mais je sais pas. Non, hein?
Not going to block you alone. And then from a gameplay standpoint, we added that with can't block. So the idea, one of the big things about design.
Pour ceux qui ne voient pas, Argus, parce qu'il y a ma grosse face. 2 blancs, 2 rouges blancs, 2 cartes. Double strike, vigilance. Quand il entre sur le battlefield où il attaque, jusqu'à une up to one target créature, choisis up to one créature. Si elle est suspected, tu l'exiles, sinon tu la suspectes. Ça, tu pourrais faire en tant que commander, faire exiler du stock, peut-être.
What did you all put together and make sure?
Yeah, so I mean, much like there was the mysterious creature helper card, we have a suspected counter, and you can get these in the play boosters. I think it's about 10% or so play boosters come with a punch out helper. We'll take a look at a couple more here upcoming, but you'll have this suspected counter and you put it on top of the creature. I mean, I know we're seeing it large here, but when you see it on the creature, and I think on the video too, it showed that it's a pretty nice size to indicate, and also with a fun little graphic to go along with it, with enjoyable itself. If we go back to the previous slide, one of the things I love about the set is not only did that rules text start out really, driving for, okay, how are we going to do Suspect? How are we, like the whole set, it just brings it together with card names like Airtight Alibi, and it doesn't add up, right? It, like, to me, that shows how, starting with the rules text that's really going for that murder mystery feel just continues throughout the art and the names as well.
Yeah, I mean, that's when you think of Airtight Alibi, you think of, well, they're no longer a suspect, and that's exactly what the card does.
Yeah, one of the things we tend to do in top-down sets is we'll have the creative team make evocative names very early on, and then we'll directly design cards exactly to match the names. And so just so people understand, the way it works is Suspect is a keyword action. You suspect something, then it becomes a suspected creature, and then it gets that ability. And so because it's a keyword action, we can use it in a lot of different ways, so it's very flexible.
And we saw in Argus Cost there are ways that there are going to be cards that interact with suspects in different ways and have them do different things. All right, let's move on to the next mechanic, which is it's really a cost, but it's pretty evocative as well, which is collect evidence. And even though all three of these cards are green, let's point out it's not just a green mechanic. It happened to be sort of we wanted a spread of things, and it all ended up in green. So
Hey, Alex.
also about collect evidence.
So we
On
once
manquait
again,
disguise.
we really like the idea of just being able to say collect evidence on cards.
Qui est un face down,
And so
une
we did is
évolution
we
de
said,
morph.
okay, what could you collect? And like we went like in your hand, you could collect cards. On the battlefield, you could.
Bon, evidence, tu exiles des cartes avec un total mana value du cost d'evidence de ton graveyard. J'aurais peut-être pas appelé ça evidence par contre, mais c'est flexible. Comme analyse de pollen, sorcerie, vous le voyez pas, c'est une rare. En coût additionnel, tu peux payer Collect Evidence 8, donc exiler 8 de mana value ou plus de ton graveyard. Tu cherches dans ta librairie pour une basic land card. Si Evidence was collected, fait que si tu as exilé, à la place, tu vas chercher dans ta librairie pour une créature ou une land card. Tu les révèles sur Evidence. Fait que c'est soit une basic ou soit une créature et une land. La vidéo va se mettre en ligne toute seule après Ariana. Elle va rester là.
Earliest version, it was always 6. But the more we played with it, we realized that we wanted to be able to change it up. We wanted it to be a knob. So now it's collect evidence number. And what that means is, as a cost, and it's often used as an enter the battlefield effect, but it's a cost. So there's other places you can.
J'aime ça parce que c'est flexible. Ouais, c'est ça. Mais j'aime pas le nom. J'aime pas le nom. Mais c'est clean, comme tu dis, c'est clean, François, c'est clean, c'est clair. Ça vient donner une valeur supplémentaire au cas dans ton graveyard. C'est très cool. Hey, bonne journée, Ariana. Bonne écoute tantôt.
I have my teaser for not today's column, but next week's column. I have a collect evidence 10 card coming, and like, oh, what collect evidence 10? Like, well, it's pretty exciting. Obviously, the knob allows us to do sort of big things, and so we can make big swings.
Avec le Impulse Draw en rouge, Collect Evidence va probablement être meilleur en rouge que dans les autres couleurs, parce que tu as beaucoup de draw and discard ou discard and draw, où tu peux décider de dropper des manacos intéressants pour ton evidence. Oh, cases.
Yeah, so the way cases work, this is something we've been actually trying to do for a while, since original Zendikar. Zendikar had quests in it that we tried a different version of quests where you had a bunch of different things you had to do, and if you did those things, then you got a reward.
Yeah.
It didn't quite work out there. We tried it again on Return to Ravnica. Not Return to Ravnica, Return to Zendikar. We tried it in Throne of Eldraine. We tried to do quests because there were knights.
Yep.
We tried something we called Crimes in Streets of New Capenna. So we played in the space a lot. We sort of streamlined it. So the way it works is there's 3 components. One is that there's something you have to solve, right? The idea is, we love the idea of Case of the Blankety Blank.
Yeah.
That's a trope of detective stories.
Yep.
And we wanted to call cards that. So we knew it wanted to be an enchantment because it's a non-tangible thing. That's what enchantments do well. If it's tangible, it'd be an artifact, but this is a non-tangible thing. So there's something you have to solve. That's the thing in the middle. So like, okay.
Hey, bonsoir Jean-Noël.
Thing to do. And then at bottom, there's a reward. Once you've solved it.
Je trouve le design super intéressant. J'aurais plus vu ça comme une nouvelle carte que les battles. Parce que Case of the Pilfered Proof, première habilité permanente, comme ils ont dit. Comment tu fais pour la solver, la régler? Donc, dans ce cas-ci, tu contrôles 3 détectives ou plus. Et quand tu le résous, tu as une habilité de plus. Fait que ta carte a comme 2 habilités. J'aime ça. C'est ça. Tu as ta récompense.
Gets the word case on the card. So there's a lot. You can see we're trying really hard to get a lot of evocative words through the mechanics.
And Mike, there's a helper with this as well, correct?
Yeah, once again, we wanted to have something to indicate, hey, when it is solved, just so that way, because you're getting, an additional bonus, you still get the initial ability, but then when you solve it, you get the additional bonus as well. And
Ben, c'est c'est un meilleur design. C'est genre City's Blessing, mais une condition différente à chaque fois, spécifique à cette carte. Ouais, exactement, François, c'est ça. Mais ça s'enlève. City's Blessing, tu peux pas l'enlever.
Obviously, this sort of followed in, I think, how we did classes, where it's a saga reversed, meaning it's laid out like a saga, but instead of being on the art being on the right side and being on the left, we've reversed it a little bit. So what we found when we have sequential cards, we are sort of doing something along the way. The verticalness does a great job of showing sequentiality, and so that's why it looks like this.
Yeah, and then just for the people, there are rare cases. I know we're looking.
Mais je pense que le fait que ce soit des enchantements, ça va. J'aurais appelé ça peut-être juste des cases puis un nouveau type de carte.
With the layout, we have just doesn't work with that aspect ratio.
That was also a completely unplanned transition into our next bit of the show, which is talking about booster fun. And we are actually going to start with extended. We, of course, have extended art cards in this set. The eagle-eyed in chat may have noticed at the end of the video that there was some art. It said Assassin's Trophy. That's our next card.
There it is.
Il continue avec des bons reprints. Il continue avec des bons
Yeah,
reprints.
so extended.
Fait que, on commence avec Assassin's Trophy dans un set standard. Ça, c'est quoi que j'aime beaucoup. Ils ont recommencé à faire. Pendant un bout, j'avais l'impression qu'ils essayaient de plus réimprimer de sets dans des base sets. Oui, il est beau, Alex. Puis, c'est le fun parce que on l'a vu avec Lost Cavern où on a eu des très bons reprints. Ben là, on commence avec Assassin's Trophy. C'est vraiment cool.
There's extended art rares and mythics of those as well. Because I mean, ever since we introduced the borderless with Throne of Eldraine, it's just been it always looks so outstanding.
Yeah.
And so it's just fun to see a little bit more of the art, and it really stands out, especially for an awesome card like Assassin's Trophy.
Yeah, and speaking of which, Mark, so we've seen Lightning Helix, we've seen Assassin's Trophy. Those are exciting reprints in a standard set. It has the philosophy changed, or how are you all thinking about reprints in standard sets?
Well, I mean, a couple things happened. One is standard went from 2 years to 3 years, which just raised the bar a little bit for the power level of standard.
Yep.
And Magic in the last 5 years or so, 5-10 years, has really changed sort of. There's lots more people playing lots of different formats, playing older formats.
Yep.
And so I definitely think we've sort of rethought a little bit of, we're a little bit more aggressive, I think, with reprints than we used to be. Like standard going to 3 years helps a little bit with that. But, and I mean, we'll get into this in a little bit about why Ravnica, but we're back on Ravnica. And like one of the fun things about doing a return is, it evokes very specific cards. Like there's definitely things that when people think of Ravnica, there's very specific things they think of, and that's kind of fun that we can go back and do that.
I mean, I think that is a great place for us to talk about why Ravnica, because you were saying before the show that this set wasn't initially designed as a Ravnica set.
So when we started, we were going to do Murder Mystery World. That was the plan. We were going to do Murder Mystery World.
A brand new world.
Brand new world. Like, and then we'll optimize the world. Like a lot of times when we do top down, we're like, we're going to make a world that's this world, we can make every decision to make this, like, it's a world where murders are happening constantly and people are solving it, whatever. And what we realized was, first thing we realized is it kind of had to have a city, that just murder mysteries require a certain amount of structure to them. And it needed to have, like, law. Like, the law, like, there needed to be police. And, like, you had to have something in which it meant something. Like, when you were found guilty of a crime, then something happens to you.
Yeah.
Right? And that, like, there's other places where the murder mystery wouldn't make as much sense. And so we started building it. It needed to have a city. It needed to have sort of a structured law thing. And the more we built it, the more we're like, wow, this really seems like Ravnica. And then one day we had this conversation. We're like, maybe it just wants to be Ravnica. Because one of the problems with building a new world for a murder mystery is nothing meant anything.
Yeah.
Like somebody got murdered. Who's this person? We've never met them before, but they got murdered, and that we realized that we moved to Ravnica.
Ça, effectivement, comme il dit, au lieu de faire un nouveau plane, réutiliser quelque chose qu'il y avait déjà est une excellente idée. Ça n'aurait pas eu le même feeling s'il avait créé un nouveau plane avec un meurtre de monde qu'on connaît pas, avec un tueur qu'on connaît pas. Ça n'aurait vraiment pas été la même chose.
Like I talked about when we made Ixalan, the idea of a backdrop set, right?
Yeah.
That we can take a world and do a new mechanical sort of front, but have that be the setting.
Yeah.
And ironically, we had just made that decision for Ixalan, and we're sort of sitting there going, well, like this seems like it wants to be Ravnica. Why are we inventing a whole new world when we already made a world?
Yeah.
And to answer a question that people ask me, why not Capenna? Why not New Capenna, right?
Yeah.
New Capenna, it has a 20s vibe, a lot of mystery tied to film noir.
Yep.
The problem was New Capenna, like, I mean, I guess there is a legal system in some sense, but a world in which people are just constantly killed because, you know, there's mobsters, like, it didn't quite have the vibe we needed.
Yeah.
Like, we needed the law to be a little more firm. And so Ravnica just made more sense than New Capenna. We did talk about New Capenna. Once we said it needed to be something, we did sort of say, like, okay, what should it be? But it really, really wanted to be Ravnica. Like, the world we were building, that was a brand new world, like, we were trying to stay off of Ravnica. That was the problem we started running into, is like, we're like, okay, well, let's not do the optimized world so we don't step on the toes of Ravnica. And like, what are we doing? Like, oh, just make it Ravnica. So we made it Ravnica.
Well, and then I also really like that, you know, talking about Ravnica, like we just had Ravnica Remastered, right, released recently.
Ravnica Remastered, oui, effectivement. C'était une bonne idée. Oui et non. Pas si proche que ça. Ravnica Remastered est sorti la fin de semaine passée. Murder at Ravnica sort dans 3 semaines. Peut-être trop proche, mais sortir un remaster set autour d'un set, comme dans ce cas-ci, Murder at Karlov Manor, c'était une bonne idée. Le problème, c'est la distance. Et ben, Ravnica Remastered, on s'entend que c'est ça.
Like, we didn't plan it. That wasn't on. It just was there, and we're like, oh, it's somebody telling us that we should just do this because, you know, right before the set comes out, we give you the guild experience of Ravnica.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah. Absolutely. All right. Let's now zoom in. I said there were going to be no more. But we're going to zoom in on more booster fun looks. And our next one is the magnified look. So we see here with Not on My.
Ouais, ça, on a trois looks, là. C'est trop. C'est trop. Ça, c'est quasiment, ça fait plus Lord of the Ring que Magnifying Glasses. Puis le frame qu'on a vu tantôt avec Ravnica, les tours, la ville, c'est tellement beau. Faut pas qu'il commence, selon moi, à faire 8 frames différents pour un set, là. Et c'est débile, là.
Love that we're done here. One, it's just, you know, these are all story moments.
Yep.
Right. So all of the showcase magnified cards, they're all spells and instant sorceries. And they all reflect like a moment, a beat in the story, and you can see that MTGstory.com in the bottom where you can go and read about it. But so therefore it gives you a sort of a second look, right? Of, oh, here it is. Here's this moment from a little bit of a different angle with a different perspective. You can even see that there's 2 unique pieces of flavor text, right? Giving that extra perspective. So we really try to embrace all ways of, hey, you know, as a murder mystery, as a detective, like what is taking a closer look and
On en parlait dimanche, c'est pourquoi que certains shops commencent à lâcher les certains singles. Ben, c'est débile, là. Il y a tellement de versions, puis c'est beaucoup de maintenance. Non seulement le prix de certaines cartes commence à être débile un peu, là, dans le sens où ça vaut pas grand-chose. Fait que le magasin, la rentabilité n'est pas là pantoute. Puis là, avec tout le nombre de versions qu'il faut que tu tiennes compte, qu'il faut que tu tiennes en inventaire, puis qu'il faut que tu mettes en inventaire puis que tu manages. C'est débile, là. C'est complètement fou, là. C'est beaucoup trop. Ça, c'est très beau, par exemple. J'aime beaucoup les promo packs. Lightning Helix. Mais ouais, c'est full art. Le frame du plane, le frame normal, avec un espèce de reverse peut-être pour certaines cartes comme là, c'est pas mal le top selon moi, là, parce que sinon, ça finit plus. Oui, éventuellement, c'est comme ça. Et on n'a pas besoin de cette version de carte-là. D'un, c'est pas super beau. Le design, je ne pas tant que ça. Il y avait un jeu d'XCOM qui était dossier. Non. Les arts sont beaux. Les arts, comme là, le Gleaming Drake, le art est super beau, style manga. Mais le design de la carte est pas beau. Là. Il est pas beau. Hein. C'est ça. C'est trop, trop. Ça rend un Battlefield, selon moi, là, je trouve ça plus agressant pour mon œil de voir un crawl whipcracker comme ça sur le Battlefield que de voir une carte de Magic frame régulier mais avec Spider-Man sur le dessin. D'après moi, là, ça me gosse pas mal plus à voir ces différentes versions-là.
An invisible ink treatment as well, correct?
Yes. And
Not treatment, but foiling.
Yeah, the showcase dossier have an invisible ink version for I think it's 14 of the mythic rare creatures, right? And so
Wait.
now you don't need a black light to see that. I mean, you certainly can get a black light and
invisible
have a good time,
ink
and
treatment.
they work under that. But you can see them with the naked eye, and sort of there's a video that we've shown as part of the first look, and you can sort of see it come to life. And they have like fun doodles, fun notes, and they're just a really outstanding, fun new treatment that we've done.
Yep. And we are going to show off one other cool treatment, which we haven't shown off yet. But if people want to know like where and how to find these things, your collecting article, which goes up on Daily MTG, is the place to be, right?
Yeah, my collecting article. If you're like, hey, I want to know how often in the collector booster I get the showcase magnified cards, right? I have it in there, down to not just like 8%, but it'll, not that that's the number, but it'll say like 8.2%, right? So very precise. We want to make sure that, as people are purchasing the different products, they know what they can get, where to get it. And then also too, because the play boosters new with Murders at Karlov Manor.
Yep.
Right. Mark did an article a couple months ago highlighting them, and then the collecting article also has more details about the play booster.
Yep.
Right. We've gotten some more questions about that, and then I know we'll talk about Clue upcoming.
Yep.
Details about that. Tons of details in that article, and it shows off a lot of the fun content and products as well.
Speaking of fun content, it's not a set unless we have really cool borderless dual lands, and these ones are new.
Oh,
and they're awesome, and let's show them. So these are lands with the basic land type, and they do enter tapped, but when they enter the battlefield, you get to surveil one.
Yes. So I mean, one of the things that
je coupe le son parce qu'il dit Bring cool new design. Hey Phil! Les arts sont beaux. Les arts sont beaux. OK. Ben basic, là. Même land, OK? Puis tu rajoutes la phrase, si tu mets la carte dans ton graveyard, tu la détapes. Comme ça, si tu surveilles, tu la mets dans le graveyard, tu détapes ta land. Au moins, ils ont mis les 10 dans le set. Ah, sinon, on va en pogner plein. Mais oui, au moins, ils ont les land types. Ils ont les land types.
Okay.
You know, basically, it's always a great pack when you're getting a rare dual land in it, and you're going to get an extra rare as well. So that's a nice.
That is. That's.
yeah.
I didn't even know that before the show.
Yeah.
That's pretty cool.
Yeah.
All right.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
J'ai entendu qu'ils ne
so
sont
that's
pas
our
dans
look
les
at the
rare mythic
treatments.
slots.
We did mention earlier that the commander cards, some
Au
of them
moins.
show up in extended as well. So we are going to show off the face cards for the 4 commander decks.
Les 4 Commander decks, les
And
face
then
cards.
the decks will be shown off next week by some of our favorite outlets in the community. So let's take a look at the 4 face cards for the decks. First up, we have
Oh,
the
wow.
Deadly
Oh,
Disguise
wow.
face card.
Oh, je vais couper le sifflet, là. Whenever a creature you control that Western face up this turn deal combat damage, tu piges une carte tap, tu vires. Le art est vraiment, vraiment beau. Ah, et puis c'est le fun de voir ça dans ces couleurs-là. Bon, on s'entend que Célestia, c'est la thématique face down, là, mais. Wow! Il n'est pas dans les couleurs de mon deck. Ouais, ben c'est ça. Puis, Alex, si tu réécoutes, tu vas voir Disguise et Cloak, ce sont des mécaniques face down qu'il y a dans le set, qui sont des évolutions de Manifest et Morph. Fait que tu devrais trouver quand même des choses pour ton deck comme tu souhaitais dans ce set-là. Oh! Un bleu-noir, un 3 flying, vigilance. Quand elle surveille, tu mets un +1/+1. Hein, fait qu'avec tous tes beaux lands, tu peux booster celle-là. Au début de la fin de ton tour, tu peux retourner target créature avec un power moins que Mycose sur le battlefield avec un finality counter. Quand il meurt, tu l'exiles à la place pour éviter d'en abuser. Vraiment cool dans ces couleurs-là. Le art est encore une fois très, très beau. Ouais. Plus tu surveilles, plus elle est forte, plus ça te permet de ramener du stock que tu as peut-être dompé dans le graveyard avec Surveil, chose qui est très, très cool.
Each guild that we can get to go detective, like that we flavor all of it, different detectives in different ways. And it's fun. So
yeah, and we'll see as previous, and it's not relevant to the commander decks, but we're talking about it. We'll see as previous season goes on. There are actually cards that care about creatures being detected.
Yes, there are.
Yeah. All right.
Or,
let's see our third card. So this is Morska Undersea Sleuth, a Vettel.
c'est pas un Merfolk. Deep Cloucy. No maximum end size. Au début de ton upkeep, tu investigates, donc tu crées un clou. Et quand tu piges ta deuxième carte, à chaque tour, tu mets 2+1/+1 sur lui. J'aurais aimé ça que ça soit un Merfolk. Je sais pas pourquoi. Hein?
Against puns, but it's a really good one.
Right. It's really good. And of course, I mean, as you talked about earlier, clues and drawing your second card, just
Merfolk Clue, ça aurait été très cool.
Pair perfectly, and then you get to investigate every turn, and so you're already basically just for a couple of mana, your commander's turned on and powered up, and Vidalcan Fish Detective is of course a well-known trope, and so we really, I think the team.
Je l'aime aussi.
And for those asking about why this isn't a Merfolk, Gavin Verhey actually did talk about this when we first revealed the commander decks a while back. I'm sure if you bother him on Twitter, he will respond again, but he does have a tweet a while ago where he talks about why this was a Vedalken Fish Detective and not a Bant Merfolk, for those of us, myself included, want the Bant Merfolk. Last, certainly not least, we have Nelly Borka, Impulsive Accuser. So
OK. 2 rouges, blancs, 2 4, vigilance. Tu suspectes une créature et ensuite tu gourdes toutes les créatures qui sont suspected. Fait on parlait de suspected tantôt. Quand une ou plusieurs créatures qu'un opponent contrôle fait du dommage à un ou plusieurs de tes opponents, si toi et ce contrôleur-là pigez chacun une carte.
Bonus.
C'est probablement, me semble, moins le fun jusqu'à là.
Sort of stuff.
Le ban m'intéresse beaucoup, même si c'est un poisson.
The goaded creature goes and finds someone else to attack. Like you even though you're not taking damage or really involved in that combat, you get to draw a bonus card,
Yeah.
right? To really fuel it up. And this is, you can see here with Nelly how Mark was talking about earlier of aggression and how do we cause aggression. It's one of the things in commander games you see a lot of times people all just want to be sitting back.
Yep.
Goads really become a popular mechanic because it forces combat. And then Nelly also just like, because it's like, if they only leave back one blocker, right, you can either have Nelly become suspected or you can make their creature not be able to block. And so lots of good ways. I'd probably make their creature not be able to block, but it's there will be situations for everything.
Yeah.
And then real quickly on the treatments themselves, you get the treatment you're looking at on the left, that commander traditional foil. You get that with every commander deck, as well as the foil etched vanity card that we include in the commander decks. To a lot of times people want their commander to be just sitting off to the side, so that way there's sort of a permanent marker of who my commander is. So and it's a little bit thicker of a cardstock, so you don't if you do shuffle it into your deck,
it's noticeable.
It's noticeable, a little easier to pull out. And then of course, as it notes, the extended art Nelly is available in non-foil in the collector booster.
All right. We still have a bunch of stuff to talk about, and we're going to keep talking about it. Right now, the we is going to be myself and Mark Gottlieb, who you notice he's not here. But Mark and I spoke a while ago. So I'm going to throw this to Past Blake to talk about the whole puzzle experience. We've hinted at it. Some pieces of the puzzle have gone out that people have seen, but there is a meta puzzle for Murders at Karlov Manor that is really cool and really in depth, and it's going to be a really fun experience for a lot of people. So I'm going to throw it to Past Blake and Mark Gottlieb to talk about that puzzle experience. Thanks, Future Blake. We are indeed here to talk about the Murders at Karlov Manor puzzle experience that is woven into the set. And here to tell us a bit more about that puzzle experience is the architect of said puzzle, Mark Gottlieb. And to get us started...
Il est peut-être moins coincé dans des affaires non agréables.
I wrote my undergraduate thesis at MIT about constructing puzzles and published a couple of New York Times crossword puzzles. I've been on staff at Games Magazine. I've written puzzles for the World Puzzle Championships, Microsoft Puzzle Hunt, 5 different MIT mystery hunts, and I've been a member of the National Puzzlers League for over 30 years.
So people should expect a challenge, certainly. But let's get a little bit more specific about this puzzle, Mark. What should people be looking for as they head into pre-release weekend on February 2nd?
As far as I'm aware, the puzzle hunt contained within Murders at Karlov Manor is just completely unprecedented. I've never seen anything like it. There will be 13 puzzles in total. First 12 are independent of each other. And the last one is a meta puzzle, which means you'll need the answers to all of the first 12 puzzles to solve it. It's a capstone puzzle. A hub for the puzzle experience is a website found at ravnicadetectiveagency.com. Starting with the first puzzle that's in the pre-release kits, one new puzzle will unlock on the website each day for 13 consecutive days. And they'll stay up and active. You don't need to solve the puzzles on the day they become available. The way most of the puzzles work is that there are pieces of evidence you need to collect from within certain cards in the Murders at Karlov Manor card set, or from within specific aspects of the set, like the pre-release kits, the bundle, the commander decks, or the art series cards. And then you'll also need puzzle material from the website, like a code key or an interactive grid.
All right. So as people work through these puzzles and they come across them and solve them, what do they do with the answers?
Each puzzle page on the website will have a box where you can submit an answer to see if you solved the puzzle correctly, and it'll tell you. And the box will also accept partial answers. So if you think you found a clue or an intermediate message, you can enter it there, and the website might tell you, "Hey, you're on the right track. Keep going."
All right. And then what are there hints if someone gets stuck? Can they get a little push in the right direction?
Yeah, absolutely. The website has some optional puzzle information that solvers can
Et
access.
Reddit va avoir toutes
You
les
can think of
réponses.
these
Mais
as hints. I like to think of them as a way to let you customize the difficulty of the puzzle you want to solve. If you want to solve on hard mode, just don't click the buttons. If you don't have time for that, or you think the puzzle's a bit underclued, just get the extra info. That's why we put it there.
All right. So some of the geniuses are in our community. Go out there. They solve this puzzle. What do they get at the end?
So I do want to emphasize this isn't a race. It's not a contest. The bonus here isn't a prize you get for solving the puzzles. The bonus here is that, hey, there are a bunch of extra free puzzles involved in the set. But that being said, after the 13th puzzle drops, as soon as one person anywhere in the world submits a correct solution for it, we will release a bonus web fiction epilogue that points to the future of the game. So there is a collective global reward.
Ah, c'est cool, ça.
All right. So the puzzle is its own reward, but also there's a reward. So, all right. Well, thank you, Mark, for walking us through this. Remember, the Murders at Karlov Manor puzzle kicks off February 2nd at pre-releases at your local game store. Now back to you, Future Blake. All right. Thank you, Past
Special
Blake
guest.
and Mark
Ah ouais.
Gottlieb, for that look at the puzzle strewn into Murders at Karlov Manor. We got a couple things left we are going to talk about here in the present at this time. Then
Non, moi non plus, c'est cute notice, mais pas d'intérêt pour ça. Dans mes prédictions, vite, parce qu'ils vont tomber là-dessus, j'avais prédit Ghost Karlov of the Ghost Council, qui est sorti dans Ravnica Remastered finalement. Fait que j'avais plus de prédictions jusqu'à date là-dessus.
Debuted with
J'ai hâte de voir
Lost
ce qu'ils vont
Canvas of
sortir.
Ixalan, so, just
Dans les
the
special
set
guests.
prior to Karlov Manor. And what they are is we wanted to go back and take and find cards that are reprints. They're all reprints in terms of mechanically they've existed in Magic before, and bring them into the new borderless style, update their art, really just give them a new look, a new feel. And so that's what we did. It's cards that are beloved, cards that we wanted to bring back into Magic. This doesn't change their legality, right? So
and they're in the world of the set that they're in, right?
Yeah. Typically, we've updated their style, so these ones will be more Ravnica feeling. And there's 10 cards. I think we'll look at.
We're gonna look at all of them.
Yeah, we're gonna look at all 10. And so these should all be familiar cards that you love. But like I said, we've given them new art, and you can find them in the play boosters and non-foil, and then in collector boosters and foil.
And these are part of the new kind of updated list, right?
Yeah, right. So in the play booster itself, we've updated the list. We've really trimmed it back. So it's only the reprint cards on the list are 40 cards, 30 commons / uncommons, and then 10 rare / mythics. And then we have additionally these 10 special guests. So about 1 in every 7 packs, instead of a common, you will get either one of the 40 reprint cards from the list, or one of these 10 special guests.
À la place d'une commune, ça c'est très cool.
And in play boosters, they're playable. In limited, they're playable.
Yeah,
all these are playable.
They're all playable in limited from play boosters. The reprint cards, these the new special guests as well. So that was part of sort of the consideration of picking them. Of okay, hey, how do we add a splash of fun variants? Go back and pick some classic cards, and that's one of the reasons we trimmed the reprints with the Planeswalker symbol in the bottom left corner down to 40. Previously, it was 300.
Yeah.
Too much variance, too hard to keep and make sure that limited was always as awesome as it could be. By bringing the list down to 40, it really let us hit all those limited play goals.
All right.
Moi, je pense que j'en
No
enlevais la
further ado,
liste
let's
juste
see
pour
the
des
10
special
cards
guests. Mais
that
bon.
are special guests in this set. We've already seen
Alright, Ghostly
Prison
Prison.
Footfalls, but
On leur couper le son. Ghostly Prison, Fabricate, Show and Tell, Tragic Slip, Victimize, Gamble, Crushing Footfalls, Tireless Tracker, Down in the Lock, Field of the Dead. On n'est pas à la Special Suite ou c'est loin d'être la guest de Lorsqu'avait un Fixalan. Il me semble que ça vient de. Ghostly Prison est super beau. De mémoire, il me semble que j'avais lu que les special guests allaient être des reprints de Master Set Quality. Oui, les arts et thématiques, je te le donne, Phil. Super belle carte. OK. Fait que, ouais, c'est. Je me sens attendu à au moins un gros hit. Quitte à, oui, refaire un secret des Griffes, mais je sais pas. Non, je pense que ça.
Talking about special guests, and in there it talks exactly about Arena and some of those swap outs that they did.
All right. And then finally for this show, I know we've been getting a lot of questions about this right here, which some people might have been eyeing, which is the Cluedo. It's called both Clue and Cluedo because that's the name of the product in various parts of the world. So if you hear us say Cluedo, it's Clue, Cluedo. Those are pretty much interchangeable. But it is this very cool standalone, self-contained game that, Mike, tell us a little bit how this works.
Yeah, so one of the things that we got excited about, of course, is like when you think murder mystery, right? I think the game we all played as kids was Clue, right? And it's like okay, who done it, right? And so we went and said, hey, could we marry the elements of magic with Clue? And we've sort of brought the best of both together. They come in this awesome box, but there's no game board, right? And so instead you in this box you get 8 20-card packs, right? And you take 2 of them and you shuffle them together, right? So anyone who's played Jumpstart, it's sort of that same sort of, and that's your deck that comes with the product. And then you have, as we see here, the.
So it looks like that. Yep.
Yeah, right. So that's the Simic Combine package. So there's always playing with the angle. So there's 20 possible of those. 2 Simic Combine
packs like this, very similar to Jumpstart.
Right.
You'll get one of these in here.
Right, and then you get 8 of the eight of the right.
The boosters.
You get eight of the boosters. You can see in there. So right. So that's how you build your deck. You take 2 of those packs. You shuffle them together, and then there's the murder mystery piece of it, right?
Yeah.
You have, I think we showed off Mastermind, Plum, the knife.
Je pensais qu'il avait vraiment sorti un jeu de clous. Un vrai jeu de clous, mais avec des personnages de Magic, puis... Ouais, non, les special guests, on se garoche pas là-dessus.
You have your notepad, right? But there's no board. Instead, the way that you ask questions is by attacking the other players, right? And so
You play Magic.
you play Magic. You're right. You're right. You play lands. You cast creatures, right? And when those creatures attack successfully, when they deal combat damage, that is how you get to ask a question, right? And you'll say things like, "Oh, Blake, do you have Mastermind Plum? With the knife in the library?" And you would look at your hand and well, if that was your hand, then you could
These would go near, yeah.
right. If they were all in there, you wouldn't have any of them, and so you would say no, and they would continue. But one of the things I really like about that, from a gameplay standpoint, is it gives you motivation to attack all of the different players, right? Because you can win the game by playing a game of Magic and just knocking all of your opponents to zero, right? Or you can win by successfully figuring out, oh, it was Mastermind Plum in the library with the knife, right? And so that's what it is. You're playing a multiplayer game of Magic with the contents of the box. It's for 3 to 4 players. Of course, for replayability, you can build your own decks, right? You can bring limited decks, draft decks, more powerful decks. And so if you want to play 5, 6 players, as long as people are bringing their own decks, they can do that. And so it's fun. It's just, it's a new way to play Magic. I really like that you have motivation for attacking, which of course, once again, in multiplayer is always a thing. And you want to say, oh, I want to attack Blake because I haven't gotten information from him yet, right? Typically, our games have been about 60 to 75 minutes when you play with the contents of the box. So it's fun, it's fast, it's great to play again and again. And I'm just really thrilled with how the product came.
Non, moi, ça me parle pas. Il y a des cartes, je crois, exclusives à ça. Ouais, il y a un foil Shockland qui vient dans chaque clou au hasard, avec un dessin spécial. Acheter une boîte de ça, mettons, je vais regarder c'est quoi les cartes qu'il y a dedans. S'il y a une carte qui m'intéresse ou quoi que ce soit, peut-être je pourrais penser à en acheter une. Puis l'utiliser comme c'est supposé être utilisé pour jouer, mais ça dépend du prix, ça dépend. Mais je pensais vraiment que c'était un jeu de clous avec les salles puis tout. Puis ça m'aurait, c'est drôle, mais ça m'aurait parlé plus que Jumpstart Clou, où j'ai l'impression qu'ils ont juste annulé Jumpstart pour ce set-là, puis ils ont essayé de domper ça en... Ah, c'est ça. Ils ont annulé Jumpstart. Oh! Fait que c'est une Magic Card, 2/2 pour 3. Quand il attaque, tu exiles up to 1 target card from an opponent graveyard. Si c'est un artefact, tu crées un trésor. C'est cool. Quand tu castes un spell avec le mana d'un trésor, tu piges une carte et tu perds un point de vie. C'est très très cool comme légendaire. Et c'est légal. Ouais.
Brand new Magic cards. So each of the 6 characters are brand new, as well as the 10 lands. Now the five weapons that we included, those are both in Murders at Karlov Manor and in the Clue product. So it's sort of more of a variant there, variant art style.
So we're also going to show up, because you got to have a person, a weapon, and a location. So let's show off a location as well. This is the library.
The library, blue red, right? I think that one of the fun things the team got to do is say, all right,
what color is the room?
Right. And we added a 10th.
Ouais, mais c'est ça. Il me semble que c'est ça. J'aurais eu plus de fun à acheter ce produit-là pour avoir un jeu de clous avec Plum, avec tous les personnages originaux ravnicolisés, avec des lands comme ça, les Murder Weapons, avoir les cartes équivalent des cartes, c'est très très cool. Mais pas essayer de prendre Jumpstart qui finalement ont décidé d'arrêter puis de domper ça là-dedans à la place. T'sais, clairement, Jumpstart était prévu, Jumpstart ne se vend pas. Ils ont poussé un stop, puis il fallait qu'ils mettent ça en quelque part. Fait qu'on va inventer de quoi pour domper du Jumpstart là-dedans.
Again, you don't use that as part. These end up in the confidential envelope for Clue, but you know you can go and use these for
Clueland.
They're Clueland, right? And I super love that they had.
Non,
Sort of
on
that
sait,
same
Universe
top-down
Beyond,
look and feel. For those
c'est
familiar with the board
légal en
game, right?
commandeur.
That was a really cool graphic design element.
So
that we
here's
got to
a
do.
real quick fun behind the scenes. Booster Fun, when they're doing things, they make a lot of different ideas because not all of them get used. And they came up with the idea of Clue lands before we even were doing a thing with the Clue.
Oh, no.
And we all thought they were cool. And then this came up like, oh, we got to do the Clue lands with the Clue.
Right. It was, right. It was just such a perfect match. And you can tell since you investigate, they make clues. Right. I mean, it's really. It's really
the
all
weapons
together.
are clues.
The weapons are clues.
Yeah.
That's right. Yeah. When we take a look at the knife.
Let's take a look at the knife.
Right. So you can see here it's artifact clue equipment. Right.
And this is cycle in the set.
Yes.
Right. And so and then they all have sacrifice. Knife in this case. Draw a card. And they they're uncommons. They have fun abilities. And so, yeah, I think it's really great. Now, the one weapon we didn't include was the revolver. It wasn't part of Murders at Karlov Manor because we don't include guns in mainstream Magic, and so we didn't have a revolver design, and so we left it out of here, but instead just added that 10th land. So it's sort of there's the right number of sort of information that you need to go and find out.
Gotcha. And so I saw the question about legality. So these have their own, if we can put Professor Mastermind Plum back up there, actually. So these have their own expansion symbol and 3-letter code. They are not standard legal.
They're not standard legal. They are Commander legal, Legacy legal. So those
Commander Legacy,
Eternal legal. Yeah. So and we did that because for one, the only place that you can find Mastermind Plum is in the Clue product itself. Right. And so that was a big piece of wanting to make
sure. You don't want to make that standard legal.
Yeah, we didn't want to make that standard legal, right? We're not printing too many of these from the get-go. And so, right, we didn't want it to be standard legal for a number of reasons. And also too, I think when you're trying, when you have sort of this one chance to create a design for a card from such a classic brand, right? Clue's celebrating its 75th anniversary. We didn't want to hold back by sort of balancing it for standard, right? Instead, just wanted to.
Also, real quickly, for the Clue fans out there, Clue has rebranded a couple different times, and so our versions are the current characters. They, I don't know, a year or two ago, did new characters, and so they're Ravnica-ish, but they're our versions of their current versions of the characters.
Oh yeah, effectivement.
So there's one other type of card in this which we haven't talked about. Is there are unique cards which are gameplay cards. So much like the Jumpstart cards, and we have a preview of one of these. So this is Lavinia Foil to Conspiracy. Same legality, but these are new cards.
These one, right. So here for Lavinia, we wanted to go and for each guild, I mentioned that they have two different versions, right? So there's going to be a Simic Combine and a second version of Simic Combine, or as we're looking here, an Azorius and a second version. So each one of the rares, we made 20 new rares because there's 20 of different packets. So, if you open up an Azorius packet, not all of them will have Lavinia in it, right? There's a second new Azorius rare as well. And then we also made 10 new uncommons. Now those uncommons are shared, so both Azorius packets will have the uncommons in it. So that's so there's 30 brand new to Magic cards that you can get within the Ravnica themed boosters. You get 8 of those in each product. So if you wanted to go and get them all, you'd have to go and buy a couple boxes worth to get that. So and once again, they're pretty fun. You can see there that we brought in the watermark is back. right? We really wanted to theme them to the appropriate.
J'espère qu'il n'y en a
Ravnica
pas une
guild.
qui va se
And then the
détacher
rest
du
of
lot
the
beaucoup parce
Azorius,
que
themed booster that you get
la
is
quantité qu'il y a,
pulling
puis la
from
quantité qui va peut-être, ils viennent de
Ravnica
dire qu'ils n'ont pas
cards
imprimé
from,
beaucoup.
it's great now that we've been back to Ravnica a number of
Quantité qui
times.
vont s'ouvrir ou
There's
qui
a lot
vont
of good
s'acheter,
designs that
d'après
you
moi,
can tap
ça peut
into
devenir.
to
S'il y en a
build
une
out,
qui est bonne,
these
ça va être une
decks
chase
to
card.
shuffle
là.
together and make for a fun gameplay experience.
C'est
Right?
pas, c'est
And
pas,
I just
c'est
want to stress,
pas
Reggie led the
ordinaire, je trouve.
product, and we tried really, really hard to just make a really fun Magic variant. I mean, if you've enjoyed, Plane Chase or Arch Enemy, like one of the fun things about Magic is that we can add extra elements on. And this really is something new we're trying, where we're taking this other thing, Clue, and really weaving it into a Magic experience.
Yeah.
And so I know some people were a little. It's a
Hey,
Magic
puis je
variant.
regarde
That's
là
what you're
vite,
playing. You're
j'ai
playing
pas
Magic.
magasiné, mais
We've added some
80
Clue elements
piastres.
on, so there definitely is Clue
Le
to it.
Clue
So it's a
edition.
combination. But it's a fun Magic variant. So like if you enjoy playing with your friends and having like this is just a fun variant. I heartily recommend you trying it. It's super fun.
And everything you need to play is found in one of these. You
Yeah.
you get every one of these suspects' locations and weapons.
Yeah, all 21. Yep.
All 21 come in one of these, and then you've got these, this notepad for tracking your clues. You get a bunch of these. These cool little things are great. And so, like you said, you can replay it then.
You can replay it if you want. You can leave the decks that you've shuffled together like that. You can pull them apart and mix and match them that way. You can build your own decks,
Yeah,
right?
your own decks.
You can just build your own decks. You can and depending on the type of game you want, you can bring decks of any sort of power level. I'd encourage you to include creatures in them because while there is another way to inquire, the primary way that you do it is just by attacking.
Yep.
Right. And so you saw there with Lavinia Vigilance. That's a great mechanic because you really want to be attacking to solve the mystery.
Right.
And I don't know if I highlighted this. One of the ways I think the game innovated on the original Clue was if you do make your final accusation and you're wrong, in classic Clue, you're out of the game.
Yeah.
Right. And my 6-year-old gets to experience this a lot. Where like he feels like he has it solved after 15 minutes, and then he has to sit there while we finish the game. Here though, if you guess wrong, if you make that final accusation wrong, you still can play because you can just kill everyone else. And sure, you didn't solve the mystery, but you
can keep playing Magic.
Yeah, you can keep playing Magic. And so that's one of the ways that we really tried to marry the fun of Clue and the fun of Magic together as well.
That finally, after an hour and 15 minutes, or hour and a half if you count the debut, is everything we have to share today.
All right.
About Murders at Karlov Manor.
Ça couvre pour l'instant. Je vais leur couper le sifflet. Ça couvre les previews pour aujourd'hui. Bon, comme d'habitude, si vous aimez ça, vous avez trouvé ça cool, vous voulez qu'on le refasse, moi, quand ça donne dans mon horaire, ça va me faire plaisir. Dimanche, on va regarder ce qui est sorti. On va regarder des spoilers. On travaille sur une nouvelle façon de vous présenter ça. J'espère que vous allez apprécier. Ne manquez pas ça. Dimanche, on va être live. On va regarder ça ensemble. Qu'est-ce qui est sorti, puis on va en jaser. Fait que moi, sur ce, je vous souhaite un excellent restant de journée. Puis on se revoit ensemble dimanche live pour jaser de tout ça. Bye tout le monde!